Something that you could argue the UFC is lacking hard right now is two guys who just genuinely are putting on a rivalry, whether for us as the fans or for each other. They genuinely can't stand each other. They hate each other. They're trying to knock each other out. They remind us of the 2009 OG Face the Pain UFC intro. You know what I'm saying? These two guys who just absolutely want to beat the hell out of each other. And as the fans, we appreciate that. But it's not even all the time just about the beef itself, okay? Like, how good is the trash talk? How big is the animosity? How good are the fights? Did we get crazy knockouts out of it? Did we get crazy back and forth wars? Did we get very memorable scraps? And in general, like, all of this is leading me to say today we're going to be going over the best and the worst rivalries in UFC history, and we're doing it in the form of a tier list. The higher up you are in S and A and B, great trash talk or great fights, great outcomes, great build up or energy or promotion in general. And obviously if you're going down to like the C's and the D's and all that, obviously it lacked those qualities. It just wasn't that exciting, or it wasn't that memorable. Maybe it didn't have all the finishes or back and forth wars, or it lacked that trash talk or genuine animosity. You know what I'm saying? So the rivalries that belong up top, they made the fans very happy, all right? So today I'm going over the best and worst rivalries in UFC history, especially over the past decade or two, all right? Just starting off with the first one we got here, let's do Merab versus Umar. Pretty recent. We got some oldies in here mixed in, but starting off with a pretty recent one from this year alone, man. Merab versus Umar was such a joy, and it's not even one of these ones that aged super well, and it's like the fact that the fight was one of the best fights of this year is really carrying it. Like, I remember seeing that one clip where this guy had to explain to his wife that he had to miss their, like, one of their anniversaries because he had to see Merab versus Umar. I'm telling you right now, they're not signing up, and the people aren't doing shit like that because of Merab's fighting style or because of how gravitating Umar is to the fans. It was because of the beef, the genuine rivalry, and the fact that whoever was going to win this fight was going to rule the bantamweight division for years to come. And with Merab already winning 2 fights since then, before Umar's already fought, it goes to show that that's the case, man. So everything about it, the build-up, the genuine hate, the fact that Merab was kind of being like escorted around and the UFC had to like make sure that him and Umar didn't cross paths. Y'all remember this shit? And Umar's like outside of the PI and he's like, "Oh, Umar, you stupid bitch. I'm the champion. I'm not even allowed in the own building." So it was a crazy rivalry. The presser was funny as hell when Merab is just shouting, "You have to be man. You have to be man. Were you in the hot tub?" It's just the best from Merab, okay? And this is when this was when he was doing this super quick turnaround. First defense as the champion. He was the underdog. A lot of people were counting him out. So the fact that there was this genuine beef, Umar was talking shit and it aged terribly, and Merab was talking shit and it aged beautifully. The fact that the fight itself was so high level. Everything about it, it was a great build-up. It was a great fight. It was high level. I'm going to put this in the A tier. I really enjoyed it. And if they do run it back after Umar gets a couple more wins, I wouldn't mind that at all. Maybe late 2026, early 2027, who knows? But I'm going to put it in the A tier, okay? Moving on up next, a little bit of a bump down here, all right? I'm going to do Adesanya versus Whittaker. At the time, this wasn't that bad. It really wasn't, man. Like, this is a couple years when I was deep watching the sport. This is around that COVID era. It's around when a lot of people got into the UFC anyways, and Adesanya was a big part of that because he, before the Sean O'Malley's and before the Pereiras and right after the McGregors, there was that little bit of a period. Not little bit. It was long as hell. But there were those few years where Adesanya was the main star, for better or worse, for the UFC. And with that came his big rivalry before Pereira took over, before the Pereira rivalry. We'll get to that, but it was Whittaker. Whittaker was who Adesanya thought was his Goku versus Frieza, okay? This is when Pereira wasn't even a thought in Adesanya's mind of showing up to the UFC. Whittaker was his heel to babyface. Whittaker was his Vince McMahon to Stone Cold Steve fucking Austin. And I'm going to put in the C tier, though. Unfortunately, like, the first fight, like, these guys, they clearly didn't like each other. Even in the second fight, like, you could tell that things were a little more calmed down or whatever. And even in the fight, like, the rematch went down kind of how the build-up kind of made it out to be. It was kind of a slow, very technical, patient rematch. It was a very close decision. A lot of people complained robbery, and I don't blame them, but in general, the first fight, when it was just that peak, huge Australia arena, whatever the hell it was, Uncle Dana was setting up Adesanya to be the next guy. He had the interim title, and Whittaker just claimed himself to be the undisputed champ, so it was a big Aussie versus New Zealand kind of vibe, or are they both from New Zealand. No, one's from Australia. I don't even know. I fucked them up like people probably fuck up USA and Canada. Well, I'm sorry, but the round 1 or 2 knockout, it was crazy to see. And after that, Adesanya went on his tear, and then the Whittaker rematch came along, and I don't know. By then, it kind of just fizzled down a little bit. Whittaker was the guy who's like the Max Holloway of the division, where they can kind of just beat everybody except the champion. It seemed like what was really carrying this rivalry wasn't how entertaining the fights were, or how insane the trash talk was, or how heated the hate was between these two. It was the fact that middleweight was going through a rough few years, and Whittaker was leagues above all these other guys that were throwing at him, and he was beating everybody else except Izzy, and Izzy was going on a crazy title run, beating everyone in the division, Whittaker included. You know what I'm saying? So I'm going to put it in the C tier. It was fine at the time, it was good at the time, but it just really doesn't stand out in the grand scheme of all these rivalries or anything like that. So I'll put it in the C tier, not the one that's aging the best. I do like how now they're friends, though. I will tip my Ben Askren throw to that. I like how they're homies now. I appreciate that. Moving on up next to these motherfuckers ain't being friends, bro. It's Khabib and McGregor. I'm just going to make this one short and sweet. I'm going to put in the S tier. We know what's up with Khabib and McGregor. There's a reason why. I mean, before the whole pay-per-view model died, there's a reason why this show was just leagues above, and it was just hundreds of thousands of views or buys, whatever the hell it was, ahead of all the rest. It's because everybody was so invested in this fight. The dolly being thrown, and the fact that McGregor's coming off of the Floyd Mayweather fight, and the fact that Khabib was a nice guy, a calm guy, and the fact that he just despised McGregor so much that it just brought this animosity out of him. This just iron to steel. This just fire meets fire kind of matchup. McGregor could just fuck with anybody mentally, but Khabib was not standing it. He stood his base. The fight itself was explosive. At times, you could argue a bit. It was just a little bit lackluster, but the whole fight as a whole, though, it was great. It did have that aura to it. Don't go into it expecting like a Gaethje versus Chandler, but it was a good fight. Like the fact that Khabib rocked McGregor, and McGregor showed cardio and improvements in the takedown defense, and the fact that he was able to take a round off of Khabib. Eventually, he got choked the hell out, but the fight as a whole had exciting moments, exciting rounds, and it was iconic as hell. This deserves its own statue if MMA was like a Disney World or something like that. You know what I'm saying, bro? The buildup was just so real. It was so genuine, and the UFC did really actually, there you go, they don't do this nowadays, but they were promoting the hell out of it, and as they should have, okay? There were multiple nations riding on this. Everybody was invested. Joe Rogan was waking up every morning in cold sweats thinking about this fight, and I don't blame him. So Khabib and McGregor, I'm gonna put it in the S tier. It deserves to be up there. Crazy, just real rivalry, all right? People forget, man, but how is Michael Chiesa's eye after getting shattered by McGregor's dolly? Moving on up next to Volk versus Holloway. Alexander Volkanovski isn't really the type to have like a heated rivalry, but Max Holloway was yelling at him, "Hey, I bring the heat, brother. I bring the heat. I'm gonna bring the heat this Saturday night." And he's like slamming his chest and shit. That was about as heated as this rivalry got, man. Like, this is just one of the very respectful ones that you're gonna get here. Very high level, similar to Adesanya and Whittaker. Like, these guys were just stuck fighting each other, and this time it was a goddamn trilogy because they really were in a league of their own for the division, even more so than an Adesanya and a Whittaker. Like, truly, Holloway could fucking 49-46 everybody else in the goddamn rankings, but Volk could 50-45 him. It made no goddamn sense, but I'm gonna put this in the C tier. Obviously, it was memorable, but I feel like it was memorable more so because of how good Volkanovski was, the fact that the first two fights were so close, the fact that Holloway was just beating everyone else in the division, making his way back to these title shots, and then just lost worse every time. It was unfortunate as hell, but as a Volkanovski fan, just seeing how that title run truly just blossomed, and it all kicked off and ended really with the Holloway reign in terms of just that peak Volk vibe. It was great to see, man, but I just feel like the fights kind of carried through. They weren't any crazy wars. They weren't any crazy barn burners. It wasn't like a Yuri Prochazka touching the belt and defending it against another Yuri Prochazka every time. But it was technical. They were fun. And you knew that it was high level. You saw a little bit of everything. And it just went to show at the end of the day how good Volkanovski was. But it is kind of a bit of a stain on Holloway's career, man. I know that he redeemed himself in the Poirier trilogy. But being 0-3 against Volk's a rough look. In general, you didn't show up for this one for the shit talk. You didn't show up for just a barn burner, but these guys were high level and they were just stuck fighting each other, okay? I'm going to put it in the C tier. I like both these guys a lot individually as fighters, but it wasn't just too crazy of a rivalry. You know what I'm saying? So I'll put it in the C tier. Moving on up next, let's do Topuria versus Holloway. I feel like all these Holloway rivalries just have a little bit of brain rot in them, okay? Because I think of the interview alone, the little like virtual face-to-face they did, and there's just so many memes about that, bro. When Topuria's going like this, when Topuria goes, "Joe, who is Joe?" And when Holloway goes, "Hey, you're like a spoiled child." And what did Topuria even say back? He goes, "Haha, okay." Or like some shit like that. I don't even know what it was. The whole rivalry was just a weird, like, it was like The Office. It was literally like The Office, but a UFC rivalry. It was awkward enough, but it was good enough at the same time. And you knew that it was just worth it because these guys were as high level as they got for motherfucking featherweight. You know what I'm saying? So I'll put it in the B tier. I don't know if these guys are ever going to run it back. Maybe. I wouldn't be surprised if a fight or two down the road we get this in a rematch, but we'll see how long Topuria sticks around. He's a shit talker, and I feel like going against anybody except Charles Oliveira, who is one of the nicest people on earth, okay? The NMF, if you want to put the belt on him, the little shiny gold belt, and pat his head afterwards. If you want to give Topuria anybody else, he's going to come shit talking them. Like, even a guy like Holloway, who he openly said he has respect for, and he's a fan of him and he likes him, he was still talking shit. He was still hitting him with those metaphorical fucking jabs, okay? And Holloway, for some reason, just couldn't stand Topuria. I don't know if he was just a little bit extra angry because he had to cut back down to 145 and he physically was just on edge. I don't know what the fuck it was. But even months out, like, he just had this problem with Topuria. Hey, you like a spoiled child, bro. Like, I don't know what the hell it was, but it was oddly just entertaining. And for what it was, I'm going to put it in the B tier, man. It was a bit short-lived in retrospect, but it was such a good enough fight, and the build-up did its job to where this, remember, last year, besides like UFC 300, was the highlight fight. It was the highlight pay-per-view. It all kept around this. People were so excited to see it. I like this one. I'll put it in the B tier here, all right? Moving on up next to Henry Cejudo versus Demetrius Johnson. I literally stuttered getting this one out because I kind of forgot this one was on here. I'll put it in the D tier. Unfortunately, listen, Cejudo, he's like a top 30 fighter of all time. And Demetrius Johnson, I got nothing but love and respect for the Mighty Guru Show and this little bald fuck, all right? He's one of the greatest fighters of all time. I love Mighty. But in terms of their rivalry, man, this was before Cejudo even had his whole shtick. This is when he was being cringy, Cejudo, but he didn't have to try to be. Like, he was just yapping and people were just cringing anyways, okay? And this is before he made it like his personality and he's making like stuffed dolls on stage at the presser and kicking them away. We didn't get all that. It all kicked off when really Cejudo beat DJ, and that's when he started rolling with all that shit. But this actual rivalry, I mean, really, it was Cejudo being cocky, and then DJ was like, I'm gonna shut you the fuck down, and that he did. He knocked out Cejudo inside one round. Cejudo bounced back after a couple fights. You know, it was like a big rematch vibe because DJ just had no other contenders left for the division. This is around the time, too, when DJ was literally right about to be drafted away to one championship. So there was just a bit of stakes on the line for this fight. Also, like, if DJ won, maybe they were gonna scrap the flyweight division, so who knows? But it was all these asterisks that really carried the rivalry. Even the second fight itself, it wasn't too entertaining, it wasn't too crazy, and a lot of people complained robbery, and I think that's fair. But in terms of these guys having a rivalry, the closest thing to shit talk was just Johnson just little broing Cejudo in the first fight, and he was just getting fucking annoyed with him in the build-up and shit. And otherwise, man, like, Cejudo hadn't really come into his own yet. We got the very end of DJ and the whole clusterfuck with him leaving the UFC, so I don't know, man. This rivalry just didn't really have anything. Both these guys' careers individually are fantastic. The first fight, crazy knockout from DJ. But it is what it is. This rivalry as a whole, and the second fight just doesn't really stand out in the grand scheme in terms of being a good rivalry. You know what I mean? So in terms of being a rivalry, it's on the more forgettable end of things. So I'm going to put it in the D tier here, all right? Moving on up next to Pereira versus Prochazka. Let's go for that. I am so goddamn happy that Pereira, how I say, beats the shit out of Ankalaev. Literally, we are too, Yuri. Yuri crying tears of joy as Pereira won the title, dude. Cinema. Literally a whole epiphany that we all had. And I just want to say, in terms of this rivalry, I don't ever know if we're gonna get the trilogy. I do like it for what it was, like the stare down between these two, and the actual two fights were absolute bangers. I feel like I'm gonna put this in the B tier. I'll put it in the B tier. I'm kind of stuttering because I don't really know what to do with it. I could put it in A or I could put it in C. I don't know. You don't go for these two for genuine beef. You don't go to these two for like back and forth shit talk. They literally relied on their fighting skills and their fighting prowess alone, how entertaining they were, the fact that they were absolute barn burners or knockout artists every time they fought damn near in the UFC, and the fact that they were just two Goliaths going against each other, the Iron Giant versus the chromosome lacking Giant, and they would just go against each other. And I mean, for what it's worth, man, very entertaining fights, and again, one of the most iconic stare downs in UFC history. You don't go to hear these two yap. Well, honestly, with Prochazka, I bring two guys from my village to my room, and we have good time. Maybe you do go to Prochazka, honestly, to hear him. Yeah, but honestly, in terms of this rivalry, I'll put it in the B tier. It was exciting, but we're at this point to where it would be maybe nice to see a trilogy down the road, like if Prochazka beats Oberg and Pereira either wins or loses, maybe chasing the heavyweight title, or whatever happens with Pereira in the light heavyweight division. I would like to see them run it back in a trilogy before Pereira retires. I mean, Prochazka's got many more years to come, but lucky us. But I'm just saying, I'll put this in the B tier. We didn't get too much out of it, but it was short, it was sweet. These guys saved a whole pay-per-view, entertaining as hell fights, and they carried with their aura, okay? I'll put it in the B tier. Moving on up next, and I said I would get to this one, man. It's Adesanya versus Pereira. I'm gonna put in the S tier. For some reason, my initial response was to put in A, but I had to slap the fuck out of myself real quick, all right? Because this one really has aged well in general. Like, I'm gonna put it in the S tier, and it's deserving of being in the S tier. The whole story, man, like, this is something straight out of some goddamn anime. You know how badly Adesanya wants his life to be an anime? You got it, okay? But Pereira is the one that shut down everything for Adesanya. It was a true, like, passing of the torch for who's going to be the superstar of the UFC, and we didn't realize it at the time, but that's really what happened, because that was really when the downfall of Adesanya's career kind of started up, as soon as Pereira showed up, bro. But I gotta put this in the S tier, man. Like, the trash talk, the build-up, the fact that Pereira didn't even really need to say too much, and Adesanya had to just sell it with kind of, you know, cringy line here and there, but you knew that the hate was real. You knew that he couldn't stand Pereira, similar to the same way that Pereira couldn't, like, stand a big Ang. You know what I mean? He's like, this is the guy I gotta fight now. And for Adesanya, it was even worse, because he already knew that he had a good chance of losing via some knockout or some bullshit, because Pereira knocked him out once, and then Pereira won, I think, via some, like, robbery split decision on the kickboxing scene. So for Adesanya, this was his worst nightmare. But in terms of being a fan at the time, man, like, this was a great two fights. Like, the fact that Adesanya said that this guy's never gonna go to the UFC, he's sitting in bars, and he's never gonna make it here because he just beat me that one time. The fact that he actually made it to the UFC, the fact that he was able to knock out Adesanya last minute, it's a pretty quick turnaround rematch. The stakes are even higher than before, because now Pereira's the champion. How the hell did he even make the weight? People forget, man. But then Adesanya, of all things, knocks him out cold, and he's walking out to headstrong, and he's got, like, the dog collar on, which we thought was kind of fucking cringy, but it ended up being cold, because when you knock out Pereira like that, you can do whatever the hell you want. Or Adesanya has the right to say, I was the guy that got to knock out Alex Pereira. Is the only one in the UFC that's done that, man. So I love this rivalry. Pereira didn't need to say dick, and he just really didn't need to get people excited, because you knew that they genuinely didn't like each other. Even the small things, like when it would cut to Pereira just reacting to videos of Adesanya, and it shows, like, his collection of, like, fucking, what were they, like, little stuffed animals and Pokemon cards, and Pereira just raises his hands up. That alone sent Izzy on, like, a 30-minute spiral. It was shit like that where these guys just did not like each other, and Pereira could so easily piss off Adesanya. The first fight was pretty damn fun. Adesanya, oh, so you're wrestling now. And then for the rematch, for him to come back and knock out Pereira, reclaim the belt, it was crazy to see, dude. Both these guys showed their power off. Both these guys genuinely made it clear that they could not stand each other. And I like that nowadays we're getting videos of Adesanya going crazy and smiling when Pereira is beating up Big Ang. Now they're like this. I like that now that they rock with each other. I like now there's a mutual respect. But at the time, the hate was real. The skill set was real. These two elite kickboxers going at it. And really, it worked out great for everybody. The UFC, the fans, everybody except Adesanya, really, that we got this rivalry, man. It was great to see. I'll put it in the S tier. Moving on up next to Kamaru Usman versus Leon Edwards. This little golem, bro. This little headshot dead, bro. Headshot dead. Usman, you gotta wake up, bro. I'm gonna take on fucking Kobe Covington next, bro. I can't stand this dude, bro. The fact that Edwards won, and we actually wanted it. What were we thinking? What were we talking about? I'm gonna put this in, like, the D tier. It really just got carried by that headshot dead in the rematch and the crazy comeback KO from Leon Edwards. Like, the trilogy fight wasn't anything special besides really just showing off that Edwards was the deserved champion by then, that he made all the right improvements. He didn't just need a lucky KO. That's all that third fight really proved. That was when the whole, like, oh, Usman's on the downhill. Well, not really. He had a close fight against Chimaev, and he actually fucking beat up Buckley. So not the downhill that we thought, but which makes it even a bigger question. How the hell did Edwards beat Usman just so well and so convincingly and so efficiently that night? Who the hell knows? But I'm just saying that the third time, that's basically all that was. The rematch was carried by the shock of it and the upset factor of it. We were 1 minute away from Usman just going on to getting closer to welterweight GOAT status. But we didn't get that. You know what I mean? That's a different timeline. But the first fight even, like, I don't think you could have looked at that fight and said, like, these two are going to have a crazy rivalry down the years, or these guys just hate each other, or these guys are going to be fighting for the belt in a couple of years. Like, nobody was really saying that. So I'm putting in the D tier because it isn't too memorable, besides the fact that that's just how Leon Edwards won the belt, and the fact that it's how a guy like Kamaru Usman really kind of started his end of title run aspirations. Like, I'm not going to say Usman's complete shit now. He could still beat up most guys in the rankings. He's still a great fighter. The whole Edwards trilogy was kind of just the decline of it all. And the shit talk, there was stuff there. Like, these guys didn't like each other, but it just wasn't good enough or captivating enough to really invest you, or to really just make sure you had to see that press conference, or you just had to see this fight. Like, I got to see these two get back in the cage with each other. I got to see the security holding these two apart. Like, you weren't really getting any of that. You know what I mean? So the rivalry itself just doesn't stand out. It's pretty forgettable. The fights, you could take them or leave them, besides the actual outcomes. And for that, and just the lack of memorability, the lack of just fun around it, I'm gonna put this in the D tier, okay? Moving on up next to, Jesus actual Christ, I got chills down my spine before I even talk about this one. Before I talk about these two, man, like a literal bad voodoo just entered my room, okay? DC versus Jones. This is just evil at its peak. If I could put this in the S+, I would, but the S+ doesn't exist, unfortunately. I gotta put this in the S tier, bro. This is the rivalry that got me into the sport, and I was one of the guys that was so damn confused how DC was always getting booed, and John Jones was the babyface, even though he was the guy that was fucking up and pulling out and popping for roids. It made no sense to me. I'm glad people see it nowadays, but at the time, dude, like, being the tiny ass DC stan I was, and him getting me into the sport, the fact that whether you watch the sport since the very beginning, or the fact that you're like me and that's what got you into the sport, even if you started watching after COVID or 2025 and you just hear about DC versus Jones, you just watch DC versus Jones, everything about it, man. It doesn't matter what kind of fan you are. I believe this is the greatest rivalry in UFC history. That's my whole point, man. I don't think it matters what kind of fan you are. Like, I just think that this is as heated as we're ever gonna get it, man. These two guys, whether you put them in the middle of a cage, anywhere in the arena, somewhere backstage, locked up in a room, dude, they will try and kill each other. If you give them the opportunity or the time, or there's no one watching, bro, like, these guys would kill each other. I'm not saying that Khabib and McGregor or Adesanya Pereira, maybe they wouldn't do that, but I feel like DC and Jones, not only like the first fight, it wasn't too crazy entertaining or whatever, but the build-up, the trash talk, the genuine hate, the fact that John Jones is screaming, celebrating afterwards, and DC's crying, the fact that the whole story, really, of John Jones pulling out and then popping multiple times in the meantime, I don't even know what happened, because there's so much shit that fucking happened with John Jones. Was that around the time of the first hit and run? I think there's been like two with Pregnant Lady. That was the first Pregnant Lady hit and run. It was around that UFC 200 time. He had to face Ovince St. Preux right before or after that for like the vacant title or the interim title. Jesus, while DC's defending his belt. My whole point with this is that it was just a big clusterfuck in the meantime between the first and the second fight. But the point is they got to the second fight. Jones had the interim belt. DC had the undisputed belt. And it was a crazy, just wild head kick KO that literally hurts my heart as I talk about it, because it was a brutal KO for DC. He's crying on the microphone afterwards. God damn it, Joe Rogan, for giving him that interview. And the fact that that whole fight, he ended up just popping for roids, John Jones, that is, it's unfortunate. You know what I mean? Well, it is fortunate, because thank God it's not a real fucking win over my boy DC. But that shouldn't have happened to begin with. If you're going to do that to DC, if you're going to do that to his fucking career, if you're going to knock him out like that, especially like the fact that it ended via a no contest, and just what a waste, man. DC's one of the best fighters of all time, and this is one of the best rivalries of all time. So for John Jones to just fuck it up, and of course he popped roids for that fight. But in general, I don't believe he did for the first time, but he's still 1-0 or 2-0 against DC. But it is what it is, man. Whatever you want to say about the actual fights themselves, like the second fight was a barn burner. For how like short it lasted, it was a 2-round scrap. These guys were going back and forth. You could tell the animosity was just there, and they were just relentless with each other. These two big boys, you could tell that they were one combination away from knocking each other out. The first fight, like, yes, there were big moments where you could tell we aren't getting a finish this time around. You know what I mean? But the second fight, these guys were just relentless. And with the trash talk, the genuine hate, what this did for the sport, the fact that these are two of the best guys for their division, two of the best fighters of all time. I've said that multiple times in this video with certain rivalries. Like, oh, look at Volk and Holloway, and oh, look at Adesanya and Whittaker. They're just in a league of their own. But dude, DC and Jones are just joining them in that class. Because seriously, the greatest light heavyweight of all time versus the second greatest light heavyweight of all time, time. Both these guys got up and grabbed the heavyweight title. Very glad DC did it. I'd rather not that Jones fucking did. But at the end of the day, man, for everything this rivalry's worth, for all the trash talk, for how much it meant to the UFC, for how entertaining it was, for how many memorable moments, memorable lines, and everything that came with it, man, I gotta put it in the S tier. I'd put it in a tier of its own if I could, but I love this rivalry, dude, okay? And even nowadays, the fact that they still just hate each other, even though John Jones tries to be a fake fuck towards them, I love it, dude, okay? So moving on up next to Cody Garbrandt versus TJ Dillashaw, dude. I gotta put this in the A tier, bro. When these guys are going back and forth on Tough, and the fact that these guys were training partners together, like Cody Garbrandt saying, "You were my brother, man." Like, this guy was like my brother. And the fact that DJ went away, who did he even train with? He went away to train with Dwayne Ludwig, I believe it was, and they had their own little thing going on. And Garbrandt, the whole team alpha male, they just couldn't take it, and that's what really started this drastic fucking rivalry with the whole picture of Dillashaw just screaming in Garbrandt's face after he brutally knocked him out, and then he gets a rematch, and then it just ends in a even more brutal KO. Like, Garbrandt really did just get fucked up in both of these fights, man. It was a rough look for him all around. He grabbed the belt, and then he just lost the belt to somebody he probably hated more than anyone else on earth. So it's unfortunate for Garbrandt, but dude, I'm putting this in the A tier because both of the fights that actually happened were very short-lived, but they were absolute scraps, man. Like, Cody Garbrandt almost finished TJ the first time around, and then TJ comes around and knocks him out, and then does it even more efficient in the rematch. Like, you could say whatever you want about Dillashaw individually as a champion and Garbrandt individually as a champion, crazy to say, but for their rivalry, man, the shit talk, the genuine story, the real hate, the backstory of, like, these guys that genuinely used to be friends, used to view each other as that sort of brothers, and then now they're trying to knock each other the hell out. There's something that's oddly just fucked up but satisfying about it, watching it in the UFC, man. Okay, so moving on up next, let's do another Cody Garbrandt one when we're at it. Him versus Dominic Cruz. Cruz versus Garbrandt. I'll put in the B tier, man. The entertainment factor is kind of carrying this one, okay? It's not carried by the actual fight itself. Like, that is similar to like a Leon Edwards versus Usman, where the outcome is what kind of shines through for that fight. Like, really, when you talk about Cruz versus Garbrandt, you talk about how well Garbrandt did and how he was dancing Nemo on him, and then the fact that he was the one that became the champion over a guy like Cruz. The fact that that was Garbrandt's night, man. That was the one night where Garbrandt was on top. That was Garbrandt's night. You got to look out your window and see it like a shooting star. Like, that's what people refer to it as. But really, the actual rivalry, I love the shit talk between these two, bro. Like, truly, Cruz just big bro'd Garbrandt, man. Like, he made it seem like everything that Garbrandt said out of his mouth was just mental nonsense, utter garbage, literal Sesame Street shit. And then, like, Cruz has this way of just fucking belittling you, bro. And Garbrandt was just so gullible with it and just would just feed into it to where Cruz was just talking so much shit to him and Garbrandt was just bumble mouthing. It was just babble mouthing, like everything. But at the end of the day, it was still entertaining. Like, Garbrandt had a couple of good lines, and I miss when the UFC would do these two guys, and like one's on this side of the wall and one's on this side of the wall, and they're still talking to each other over the phone or through the walls, whatever the hell they did. But I miss that kind of shit. When these two guys were going back and forth with each other like that, or they would be in the same room or on the opposite side of the cameras or whatever the hell it is, man, these guys couldn't stop just talking shit to each other. It was very entertaining. Unfortunately for Cruz, man, he got beat the hell up, and it was kind of a rough look for him. It really was. But Cody Garbrandt, that was his night. I'll put this in the B tier. The fight itself wasn't anything crazy, but just Cruz's little smart ass, bro, and Garbrandt just feeding in, and these guys just chirping back and forth. It was entertaining. It was a good build-up, and it really was the end of that peak Dominic Cruz. And for what it's worth, it was a good build-up, and it was entertaining, and it deserves the respect of B, all right? Moving on up next to Usman versus Covington, okay? Truly the nerds and versions versus the literal king of Wakanda. I'm going to put this one in the A tier. It's not truly that generational rivalry, not that once-in-a-lifetime kind of thing, some Rock versus Cena. It's nothing like that, but dude, this was good, man. Both of the fights, the first and the second, you can argue which one you like more. It's one of those rare movies or video games where they both have like a 95 plus on their scores and reviews, and you're like, Jesus Christ, these both are just amazing. How did it happen twice? That's what happened with Usman versus Covington. Like, the first fight was great, ended in a finish, a brutal one where Covington got his jaw broken, and Usman's talking shit to him and barking at him like a goddamn dog. And then in the second fight, you could argue Covington even made it even more close than the first time, but he actually made it to the distance. Really good back and forth. You could argue that one was more or less entertaining, but either way, the trash talk, it was there. The build up, it was there. They genuinely didn't like each other, but Usman was so much more of this like reserved, quiet, hey, I'm the champion now, I'm coming all night to you, Wood. Pause, like that kind of vibe. And Covington, we know him, this little autistic yap sesh with all of his little like tie-dye suits and the orange suits and everything, and Rogan's talking about him every other episode in his podcast, like, this guy, he's a really good guy, but he has this character character, man. He goes out there and he's just a heel to the fans. People forget. And at the end of the day, man, it was like that peak Covington and it was that peak Usman. And that was just a rivalry that kind of highlights both of their careers. And I don't mean that in a bad way. Like, genuinely, the trash talk was good. The rivalry, the actual fights themselves, like, it lived up to the hype. Covington was just that guy who, not as much as a Holloway or a Whittaker or a Prochazka, but he seemed to be that kind of second place for the division. And he was trying to hold it down. But if you ask people, like, what they think of Covington's career or what was the most notable thing, they'll tell you it's the Usman rivalry. But he just came up short both times. You know what I'm saying? But it was very entertaining. These guys were duking it out and giving everything they fucking had, and we appreciated it. And the fact that even afterwards, especially in the rematch, when there was just that multiple minutes of just like respect and the fact they really did have that mutual respect for each other, I kind of fuck with it, okay? I kind of dig to see it at the time. So I will put this one in the A tier, okay? One of the better rivalries since around like that COVID time. You know what I'm saying? Moving on up next to Chael Sonnen versus Anderson Silva, bro. Now, this is probably the most OG of OG ones I got on this list, but I gotta put this in the A tier as well, man. Here's the thing, Daniel. I really believe that I'm undefeated, I'm undisputed, and I really beat the shit out of Anderson Silva. I really believe that, Daniel. I think that Chael Sonnen, man, undefeated, undisputed till the day we die, man. The fact that he really did become the innovator of trash talk, the first guy to really talk shit and make it just so entertaining and so easy to watch for the fans, man. The fact that he was doing all that, especially going into the fight against Silva, and he's calling him out on the mic, and one of the most iconic call-outs of all time, and the actual fight, he was beating him for 90% of that fight, and Silva pulls out this crafty, super last-minute upset, not upset, because he was supposed to win, but this last-minute moment where he ended up getting the submission, and Chael Sonnen failed his family's dreams, and they get a rematch, and then he just gets crushed. So it was a crazy fucking rivalry, man. Like, Silva barely speaking a word of English at the goddamn time, and he's just sitting there, but at the end of the day, he brought the heat against Sonnen, man, and these guys genuinely, it wasn't the most crazy just hate in the world. Like, you could tell it was more so just for the title. They just wanted to be the goddamn best, and Sonnen just had this way of just like picking people apart on the mic and just belittling you or talking shit. Not like a Dominic Cruz bullying you kind of way, but like in a Ric Flair kind of way. You know what I mean? So the trash talk was entertaining as hell. The actual fights, it's just wild outcomes both times, and unfortunately Sonnen never did get his hands on the undisputed belt, but he did give us one of the best rivalries of his generation and of all time. So I'll put respect on this one and put it in the A tier, okay? Very memorable. The fact that it's already been like a couple of decades and we're still talking about it says a lot. So I'll put it in the A tier for sure, man, all right? Moving on up next to Merab versus Sean O'Malley. I gotta put this one in the D tier, bro. I would genuinely rather watch these two play a fucking Xbox Live party together than actually get in the cage and fight each other, okay? The rematch was entertaining, but the first fight was a snoozer. And the trash talk in general, it's like you get Merab yapping nonsense, and occasionally you'll get like a cold line from O'Malley every fucking 6 to 8 months, okay? Like a goddamn pregnancy. But I'm just saying, I just think that these guys didn't genuinely have that real beef, that real animosity. It was just like, okay, Merab's next for the belt, and Sean O'Malley is trying to make a heel out of anybody that was facing him. You know what I mean? So, I mean, the first fight, like I said, stinker. The rematch, worth it, but it's just we were questioning how O'Malley even got the title shot. The build-up was just very lackluster. Like, there's nothing about this rivalry that really stands out besides this is when Merab really kicked off his title reign. And Merab in general O'Malley in general is a big part of that. He fought him twice, you know what I'm saying? So, for what this was, man, the trash talk, you could leave it. The first fight especially, you could leave it. Like, it's really just seemed like a transitioning of the bantamweight champion in O'Malley to the new bantamweight champion in Merab, okay? There's nothing about this rivalry that really stands out. I really don't want to see a goddamn trilogy. Hey, O'Malley, please, I would like to buy 14 houses and 27 horses. Please fight me in trilogy. I need money. I don't want to see any of that shit, all right? I'm going to pass on that one. I believe this one deserves to be in the D tier. I fuck with O'Malley and I fuck with Merab, but in terms of a rivalry, they just don't belong with each other, okay? It's like the two friends in the group that you like them individually, but if they should date, no, please, don't do it. You'll ruin us. Moving on up next to Aldo versus McGregor, man. I gotta put this one in the S tier, okay? Out of all the rivalries that McGregor's had, like the Nate Diaz's and the Khabibs, first of all, how did I not put Nate Diaz on this fucking list? That's my bad, but all these rivalries, even Alvarez and Mendez and everything, like Aldo versus McGregor just has this special place, man. I gotta put this in the S tier as well, along with the other McGregor one I got on this list, but Aldo versus McGregor, like when McGregor is just putting his hands on his shoulder and Aldo's freaking the hell out and he's gotta leave, or the fact that back and forth in the pressers, Aldo would get so mad, and even after McGregor took his belt and started waving it around, and he's getting so mad, he has to be in his own room and he has to just cool the hell down, and McGregor's just staring him down, and he's just non-stop talking shit to him, like Uncle Dana was taking these guys around the world. They gave him a whole world tour presser. Yeah, we don't get that nowadays. We don't get that much promotion nowadays. But at the time, this was the super fight. This was the real coming out party for Conor McGregor. It was a very unpredictable fight. There was so much trash talk, so many pressers, so many moments. Like the build-up, it felt special. It felt big. And yes, McGregor was chirping his ass off and had so many good lines and was really just mentally tormenting Jose Aldo and his goddamn family. But the reason why this fight was so unpredictable and the reason why it was a damn near pick-em odds is because McGregor was on a tear. McGregor was knocking everyone out. He had the power, but Aldo held down the fort for years. So it was a great fight in the build-up. It was a great trash talk. I mean, Aldo kind of just took everything that McGregor was throwing at him mentally and emotionally, but you know what I'm saying. The actual fight, the only thing we were missing from this rivalry was the real fight, a real back-and-forth scrap. Like, what we got out of it instead was one of the most iconic knockouts of all fucking time. One of the most beautiful knockouts of all time. Jesus, but unless you're an Aldo fan or a Brazilian, then I'm sorry. But other than that, man, other than the fact that we missed out on like a good back-and-forth war or more of like a test, you could argue for McGregor, like he still knocked the dude out. He still fucking passed that test, you know what I'm saying? Still became the champ. Still, that was kind of like that peak McGregor. And just the build-up, the fact that the UFC put this much promotion and effort into it, and they're going on talk shows, they're going on these back-and-forth interviews, they're doing all these pressers. Like, it was amazing to see. They have all these great promotions and trailers coming out, and I don't know what it was, but like when they're sitting in the middle of the fans and McGregor's on top of a car or some shit, and he's ripping up the poster of Aldo and just screaming, like, iconic shit, dude. I gotta put this one in the S tier. Again, if you're not Brazilian or an Aldo fan, if you were like a casual, a hardcore, a McGregor fan, or an Uncle Dana himself, you were pretty damn happy watching this rivalry, okay? So I gotta put it in the S tier. One of the most iconic rivalries of all fucking time. And this got a lot of people into the sport, all right? And moving on to the last one we got here, man. Rockhold versus Bisping. I'm going to put this in the B tier. This is one of my personal favorites. It's like you have a really good song that you love, okay? But you're aware that it's only like a 7 out of 10 song. It's a good song, but you can't go bragging with it like you're Fantano to your friends. You know what I'm saying? It's not the craziest music you've ever heard. But you could still be aware it's good. You could still appreciate it, all right? That's how I feel about this. Because at the end of the day, this wasn't the craziest rivalry in the world. This wasn't the most high-level rivalry in the world, okay? The fights weren't the craziest. All you got out of this was just two guys who could not fucking stand the thought and existence and the idea of each other, okay? And you got two crazy as hell knockouts over it. You got Rockhold finishing Bisping, and you got Bisping finishing Rockhold, but the second time's for the belt. Fantastic, huge upset. And Michael Bisping, before he started just yelling, Rebecca, Rebecca, like this is when you got Bisping just yelling at dudes and actually just that prime shit talk, okay? And we just love to see it. We love to see it, man. The believe, conceive, achieve line, and then Bisping goes, shut the fuck up, and then Uncle Dana's laughing his ass off, like iconic as hell. The title reign of Rockhold was just so short-lived. He was supposed to be the next guy, the next big thing, like he's Brock Lesnar, but Bisping ruined all that, okay? It was great for Bisping and his legacy, and for all the fans alike. He's drinking beers at the post-fight presser. Remember when the UFC used to do those post-fight pressers, but it wasn't one guy at a time? They had everybody in the room together. Well, we need to bring that back, because Rockhold had just got knocked the fuck out, and Bisping's just getting drunk in front of him and just going, you got knocked the fuck out, buddy. You got knocked the fuck out. Shut up and sit down. And it was just amazing to see, dude. Everything before, during, and after this fight was pure bliss, especially if you rock with Michael Bisping, okay? So I'm going to put this in the B tier. It's not the craziest or most unique or one of a kind or high level rivalry you'll ever see, okay? But it was short, it was sweet, and it was funny as all fuck, and it's got a special place in my heart, okay? I got to put this one in the B tier. A B plus, all right? So that's going to be it for the video here, man. I was supposed to talk about Covington and Masvidal. I don't even want to. I feel like that somewhere would belong on this list, but that's going to be it for this video, man. I appreciate y'all for making it this far. Thank you so very much for giving me your time and attention. I hope you like this video, man, okay? This is one of these ideas I had where I'm like, okay, I could do this tier list or I could do this, but then I thought about this and I kind of just shot up from my chair and I just like, I need to get recorded. I need to fucking do this one right now. So I hope you guys enjoyed it, man. I enjoyed making it. I appreciate y'all a lot. Let me know your opinions in the comments below. Let me know which rivalries you like the best, like the worst. I'd absolutely love to hear it, okay? Which ones did I miss out on? Which ones should I have included? Let me know, okay? All the smoke here. Appreciate y'all a lot, and I will see you all next time.